Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Ew.
Oh, we don't want to lose her there. All right,
Hi,
Michelle.
I'm all fresh off my installation. I've got my pen.
I'm going to put you on the spot for 30 seconds. Michelle, you ready?
Yep.
All right. When you come off an installation, one of the last things that Larry and all of his team will tell you is that so many people leave the installation, go back and fall into their old ways. What have you done in the last 4 days that you learned at your Ninja installation that's going to keep the momentum going?
I have written my note cards. Actually, I didn't on the weekend, but I did yesterday, I did today. And yeah, and I made 5 phone calls today, which was good because usually I'm not a phone caller.
Good for you.
Good for you.
We have Brenda. She's out in Pennsylvania. I know Brenda's a big Larry fan.
Maybe the biggest. Yeah. I mean, you only meet so many life changers, right?
Amen to that.
Brenda, how do you know Lee? I mean, you guys are on opposite coasts.
Well, actually, I met so many people through the Ninja Nation, and then Lee was at I'm a Remax agent. He was at a Remax convention. And because everybody's like a household name within the Ninja group, I looked at him and I said, "You're Lee Eckroth?" And we became immediate connections just because of those, the faces meeting the legend. You used to give a lot of seminars about where he would be a guest and you would talk about the different things he did to grow his business. So when I met him, it was like he was a rock star and I could look at him in person, you know.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Lee fan than a Mick Jagger fan. What can I say?
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're at 11:01. We are going to start this up in 1 minute while people are continuing to join the group. Just a couple things as we get started. Feel free to leave your questions for Larry in the chat. I'll be moderating and I'll bring those out. We are just going to have a discussion today talking about Wake Up Money and how that can apply to your businesses. This conversation is specific for real estate agents. So to help you become investor-friendly agents with the mindset of Wake Up Money. And for me, that was the place that I first really started learning about it and teaching it. So we'll talk about that. Go ahead and mute yourself. And in a moment, I'm going to highlight Larry, I'll highlight myself, and we'll end up having a discussion for about 50 minutes. And again, put your comments over in the chat. And then near the end, I will open the conversation up for anybody who wants to chime in and ask direct questions. And we'll roll from there. Along the way, I'm going to drop a few pieces of good info in the chat for you to download. And I will email it out to everybody afterwards. So it'll come your way. So with that, it is 11:02. I promised Larry that this group likes to stay on time and we like to learn a lot in the 50 minutes that we have. So we are really, really fortunate today to have Larry Kendall with us. Larry's out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Larry started real estate back in the mid-70s. He founded the group in 1976. He was the author and started teaching ninja selling starting around 1994. And I believe started actually going full on teaching it in 2013. Larry, outside of that, do you want to give a little bit more background on yourself that will share with everybody who you are and what you do?
You bet. This is actually my 50th year in real estate. So I started in 1972. So I've seen a few markets. I've never seen one quite like the one we've had the last couple of years. But yeah, so I've had a couple of careers. The first one was real estate. Before that, I was a captain in the Army. So I guess that was my first career out of college. I was in the Army for 3 years and then in real estate. And then we were getting results in our company that people said, "How do you get those kind of results?" And I said, "I can show you." And then I found myself teaching ninja selling and then wrote the book Ninja Selling. So Today we have Ninja Selling has 14 instructors. We are training about 1,000 students a month live, and about 800 a month on our virtual programs. So,
wow, very cool. Very, very cool. So that's gonna be my one endorsement for today, folks. Do look up Ninja Selling if you want life-changing experiences for your real estate business. It is a big thing. So we are here to talk about Wake Up Money today. And Wake Up Money is something I learned from Larry. My introduction to Wake Up Money was when I went through my first installation, which was probably back in 2013, 2014, somewhere in that time. And a part of the Ninja installation is the teachers will talk about this idea of Wake Up Money. I embraced that and literally came back to my real estate office and taught exactly how Larry taught for 3 years Wake Up Money. Now, I actually, Larry, I bought 5 or 10 sets of a CD set or DVD set that you had at that time. And I would show the video and I would then look at everybody and I'd be like, what do you think? You ready to buy investment real estate? So that was my introduction. I came back and it was a good step for me making an investment into the investment real estate side. Larry, talk to us about where Wake Up Money came from. Like, where did the terminology come from and why did you add it to Ninja Selling?
You bet. The first class I taught, which evolved into Wake Up Money, was in 1981. The market, the interest rates were very high then. Mortgage rates were 16, 17%. Real estate people were really struggling. And so I put together a class for real estate agents and their families on basically how to manage their money and how to weather basically a downturn in a difficult time, and then how to build wealth. And my definition of being wealthy was being able to wake up in the morning with the money and the health and the friends to do whatever you want that day. And that became called Wake Up Money. And so later that class spread to where we were teaching it once a month to investors, to clients of ours that were investors. Our agents became then very knowledgeable on how to work with investors, and it became a big part of a lot of their business every year. And whether it was for investors, for wealth building, or whether it was for ways to pay for a college education for their kids. And we held those monthly, every month for years until, let's see, it would have been about 2006, I think. I teach real estate forecasting at Colorado State University. I taught there for 10 years. And I could see the signs, and we put a halt, we put a pause on Wake Up Money classes. I said this is going to be an adjustment period. Turned out it was. So we suspended Wake Up Money during the right before the Great Recession, and then started back up in 2009. And we suspended it again with COVID because we couldn't have our classes. And now we haven't reopened them because we don't have enough inventory to do that. Although we're still selling a lot of investment property. I think we're about ready this year or sometime we'll reopen our classes.
Yeah. So I have my own story in the Wake Up Money world. So I bought in, I drank the Kool-Aid and went all in on the idea that I was going to buy real estate to use to pay for my kids' college education and for my retirement, right? And before you all jump on, I was just sharing with Larry that my eldest.
That doesn't include the mortgage.
There we go. We got that muted. My eldest is just getting ready to graduate from Oregon State University here. So we bought a particular house here in town. We started to cash flow that house. In our case, instead of taking a traditional route of getting that house paid for and using it, we actually let one of our kids live there. And so suddenly we weren't paying $1,000 a month for their rent. They learned to manage that property. They learned to accept the income and do all the maintenance. So my second kid is just about ready to graduate, and we're going to walk away from that home with a large chunk of equity to go into our next investment. So like Larry, that's how I interpreted Wake Up Money for us. Like, let's use real estate to do really, really cool stuff. Share a little bit more about what others have done or have used it or interpreted it as.
Well, Lee, on your story of paying for college, the first experience I had was actually back in the 70s. I had a young couple buying their first home. He worked at a manufacturing company. He was a line worker. We found him this house. We're sitting there signing the paperwork, and their little 2-year-old kind of toddled across the kitchen floor. And I said, "What is your dream for your daughter?" And they said, "Well, our dream would be that she's the first one in our family to go to college." Neither of us went to college. In fact, neither one of them graduated high school, interestingly. So this was their big dream. And I said, "Well, let's get this home bought, and then let me show you how you can pay for her education with buying a property." And a couple of years later, we helped them get back in the day, an FHA assumption, and the seller carried a second, and they were able to get into this investment property. And it was an FHA assumption, so that the loan had progressed quite a bit. So what it turned out was, by the time their daughter was ready to go to college, I heard a noise. Hold on. That was my. I have my phone turned off, and I've never heard that sound before, but we've got a phone ringing. So I apologize. Yeah, anyway, the amortization on that loan was such that when their daughter was ready to go to college, it was paid for. And I remember getting an invitation to the graduation ceremony, and they were celebrating. And they made a comment: "If you hadn't done that for us, our daughter would either never go to college or would come out with college debt." And so it was a great experience, and very rewarding for them, and rewarding for me to feel good about helping them do that. And that was the first one that I was involved in. And then that led to promoting that, creating a template for it, and actually having that be a part of our program at Ninja. We believe that we have this saying, a house for every child. So if you have 2 kids, you need 3 houses. You need one to live in. You need a house for each of those kids to pay for college.
No, I love it. That's a good transition to kind of what I wanted to jump into here, which is really to help everybody on the call and everybody who's going to be watching this afterwards, think about when and where is the appropriate time to introduce concepts like Wake Up Money or investment properties to their clients. So many real estate agents work really hard, and they're on the wheel spinning, just trying to keep up with the marketplace, trying to keep up with their listings and their buyers. I have this deeper sense, Larry, and we talked about this a little bit before we jumped on the call, that so many opportunities out there to help your clients do really great stuff with investment real estate. But that relationship typically starts with I need to sell my house, or I need to buy my house. What would you suggest is, like, when is the appropriate time to be talking about those next steps? Because it really is a relationship, right? This is about, if Brenda or Michelle or Jeffrey want to add extra value to their relationships with these clients, most clients aren't expecting them to suddenly say, "You know what? I've got something that you should probably start thinking about." Like, that isn't the typical agent approach. So what is your suggestion for bringing that about in their conversations?
Well, I like to ask them, has their home been a good investment for them? And usually they'll say yes, because they've had good appreciation and so on. I'd say, well, what would happen if you owned a home for investment? What would your life be like? And what if you own 10 of them? What if they were free and clear? What would your life be like? So it's kind of like what we say, wave your magic wand. If you owned 10 free and clear houses, what would your life be like? And most people, oh, that'd be incredible, and say, well, would you like for me to show you how to do that? And so starts with the questions, start with their base of experience, which is their personal home. Last year, most homes in the United States went up 10 to 20%.
Yeah.
And so it's been a good investment for them. Well, what would happen if they had owned some investment property? Would they like to see how that works?
Yeah, for sure. And we have more people chiming in on us, which is great. As we keep stepping down those, going down this pathway, Larry, I want you to share a little bit about your past experience as an investor. You talk about it a little bit when you're teaching ninja selling, but you talk about your journey that you went through from your first property through commercial. Can you share a little bit about that pyramid?
Yeah, you bet. And another thing that I think that you can use to help people. And they want help. I think this, what I'm about to share with you, shows that they already know real estate's a good investment. But if any of you subscribe to Keeping Current Matters, their latest, and if you don't, I would encourage you to check it out. KCM, Keeping Current Matters. They have their current chart that they just sent out shows that the Gallup organization did a national survey of what are the best investments. And real estate ranked number one amongst Americans, feeling it was the best investment. It was number one for the last 8 years in a row. So they know it's a good investment, and they know it's a good investment because, first of all, they have that experience. They own a home, and so it's not some sort of exotic, Bitcoin or .com or derivative or something that they don't understand. They understand it because they own it. And so it's pretty easy for them. My first, I started out, interestingly, this was in 1978. We were in a boom market. And one of the guys in our office at a sales meeting made a comment. He said, I think we're in a bubble. I don't think these prices, can't make these numbers work anymore. And I said, well, I think you can. And I went out and bought 5 houses in 5 weeks.
Huh.
And my method was very simple. I just took whatever was the best buy, in my opinion, that week on the MLS, and I went out and bought it. And I didn't have enough money to buy those houses, so I took in a partner and who had the money and I had the knowledge, and together we bought these 5 houses. Later, I wanted to keep going, and she didn't want to. She was older than I was, and so we split those houses up, and she took 3 and I took 2. I then refinanced those 2 and bought 4 more. So then I had 6. And then I refinanced those and bought 4 more. So then I had 10, which was my goal. I wanted to get to 10. And then I wanted to get them paid off.
Yeah.
At that point, I started to dabble in commercial development. And we bought some land, built an office park. And kind of where the this, what we call an investment pyramid, fits together is it's not a pyramid scheme. A pyramid is a very strong structure, and we want to build a portfolio that is what I call evergreen. So you can withstand downturns in the market. You can just withstand a blow and still be successful. So I would recommend that you build this pyramid. Start out with your personal residence, get a home. Once you've got a home, then buy, residential investment property, single family homes, condos, townhomes. The next level above that would be maybe a duplex or fourplex, multifamily, maybe even up to 12plex, but you're into apartments. And then as you go, the next level up would be maybe some retail or office buildings. And at the top of the pyramid, the thing that's the most risky is the development business. If you want to see your net worth whistle right by zero, you can get involved in development. And if you are in the wrong time, which I was a couple of times, we almost lost everything. And the only way that we survived was that we had this strong pyramid at the base. We had these 10 houses. And so we were able to use the that equity to keep the banks loaning us money on our office buildings and so on. But I would encourage you to start with residential real estate, houses, townhouses, condos. We reached a point where we had 36 houses. We also had commercial too, but
Yeah.
the houses were the best because number one, they're one of three basics: food, shelter, clothing. People have to have a house to live in. It's not a fad investment. For example, right now, if you had a bunch of office space and with people with remote working movement and stuff, you could be in trouble. Retail has been in trouble with COVID. But the residential market continues to boom, and it's even more booming now because more people are moving home to work at home. Their retail's in trouble because they're buying stuff online, and so stick with the core basic, food, shelter, clothing, residential real estate. Start there, and then if you want to get more sophisticated, you can. But I had a neighbor that took early retirement from Hewlett Packard. He had a pile of cash. We had breakfast. He says, I think I want to be a developer. And I said, well, do you have any residential homes? He said, no, my house, I have my house, but I don't have any other real estate.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you go home and lay down until that feeling goes away? And let's instead build a portfolio of houses first, which is what he did. And now he's a very happy camper. So
that's great. Look, and for everybody on the call, one of the reasons I wanted Larry to share that is so you understand how you can help your clients in understanding this. One of the challenges we all face is when we have our clients come running through the door and they say, I want to be a commercial developer. And one of your jobs as agents has to go, whoa, 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 are you sure that's what you want to be, right? One of the best things you can do as a advisor to these people is help them get into this the absolute right way. And with that, let me ask this question, Larry. And it's kind of it's not even meant to be a setup question, but we can discuss both sides of it. How important do you think it is that real estate agents are doing what they're preaching and investing in real estate themselves to be able to discuss it with confidence? Like, what has been your experience there?
My experience is that you're a much better trusted advisor to your clients on investment property if you own investment property. So I think that if you don't have investment property yet, that would be the starting point would be to get your feet wet as an investor, find out what that's about. I think you'll have more credibility with your investors. It's interesting. A little side story. There's a young man in Fort Collins. His name's Jocko, and Jocko is a civil servant. He works for the Social Security Administration. He's a government worker, basically. And his father died. His mother had passed earlier, and his father died, and he inherited a $600,000 house, free and clear. And he didn't know what to do. I mean, he doesn't have a business degree, and he was getting a lot of advice from friends that he needs to find a stockbroker and put that money in the stock market or whatever. Fortunately, the person that sold his house was Joanne De Leon, who's a realtor in our company. And Joanne says, why don't you come to this Wake Up Money class that we're having? Well, Jocko came to that class and he realized, number one, I understand houses.
Yeah.
Number two, what I like about how they're one of the three basics. It's not a fad that's going to go out of favor. Number three, they generate income. And so at the end of the class, I did what Lee, you did at your dinners, or Joanne did. I finished the class and she just turned to Jocko and she says, do you have any questions? He says, yeah, do I have enough money to buy 9? And Joanne says, well, yeah, you do. And so he bought 9 houses. So, no, actually it was 7. He says, do I have enough money to buy 7? And she said, yes. And he bought 7 houses. So that's how it works.
Yeah. And, one of the things I've always loved about Wake Up Money, and this is for everybody on this call. We are just not using terms like go out and buy an investment. Like, one of the things that, you've heard Larry and I have, and I'm gonna let you respond to this, is when you talk to people about going out and buying real estate investments and the benefits, and they say to you, but Larry, I don't want to take the phone call about the leaking toilet. Like, your first response to them is always,
Well, I've owned a lot of real estate over the years, and I've never had to, rush out during the middle of dinner to handle a leaking toilet.
right. Like,
I think that my advice would be, if you're busy as we were, if you've got a dual career household and you got kids, you got stuff to do, hire a professional property manager to take care of that for you. That's what I would do.
yeah.
And we always I think that's a lame excuse for not buying properties. One thing I want to mention, I don't think a lot of people realize this, and I want to there's a simple formula that we use for a return on investment. And that is this: take the down payment on the property and convert the down payment to a fraction. So if you're putting 20% down on an investment, you convert 20% into a fraction, so that's 1/5. Then take the denominator, which is the bottom number, the 5, multiply that times the appreciation rate, and that's your first year return on investment. So if homes are going up 5% a year and you're 20% down, that means 5 times 5, that means the return on your investment on your down payment is 25%. This last year, if appreciation was 10%, your return was 5 times 10, which is 50%. If you were in one of those few markets that was 20%, your return on investment was 100% in 1 year. I mean, what are you doing if you're not buying real estate, especially when you're in that business and you know your way around the market? That should be the core investment strategy for all realtors, I think. And then along the way, what you'll do is you'll bring your clients along. I did a analysis of our clients from 2009, when we started Wake Up Money up through 2019. So that 10-year period, we sold 4,000 investment properties in our office. Now, we're a pretty small company of 200 agents. We sold about 400 properties a year.
Yeah.
And over that 10-year period, our investors experienced almost $1 billion of appreciation. And I mean, I look at people who are retired. Jocko, by the way, is now retired at the age of 45, I think he is. We've got people that are independently wealthy. We've got kids that colleges have been paid for. People who've been able to start new careers that they always dreamed about because they have wake up money. They can wake up in the morning and do what they want that day.
Yeah. I'll go back to the question that I asked you. I always would look at people when I was talking about Wake Up Money, and they would ask, we'd go down the, I don't want a plumber calling me. And I would look at them and go, look, these people are bringing you a bag of money every single month, handing it to you and saying, I'd like to buy you this property. And you just would accept that bag and say, thank you. And maybe once a year, you might take a phone call from them that they have a problem. Like, that's a pretty good deal. I'll buy you a house. You take my phone call. Like,
it's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah. We always like to say, all you have to do is scratch together the down payment and the tenant will buy the house for you.
Yeah.
They'll make the payments.
For sure. All right. So Michelle Waddell is setting us up with a good question here. And we'll see where it goes. She all of a sudden said in our chat, Larry, do you feel like we're in the same situation now as 2007 with the real estate bubble? And I think where that's going is, like, if Michelle walks out there today and wants to start talking about investments and Wake Up Money, and let's say it works for our market, like, how does she answer that? But I'm going to go back to the question. Do you think that we are in kind of a crazy bubble at this time?
No, I don't see it this time. I think that the dynamics are very different than they were back in 2007. If you look at 2007, if you look at the how many homes were being created by builders compared to household formations. Depends on the market you're in. It was 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 to 1. So they were building 4 times as many houses as there was demand. We don't have that problem today. We have the reverse problem in that we have more household formations than we have houses being built. If you look at that dynamic, we should have been building about 500 to 600,000 more houses a year over the last 10 years. So we're about, depends on whose numbers you want to use, but either one are huge numbers. We're probably 5 to 6 million houses behind. So I don't see a bubble for sure. I think that there's going to be, I don't see home prices falling. I don't see another 10 to 20% increase this next year because I think some of that demand has been satisfied. I think rising interest rates, I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the economy with what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. But I think all that's going to do is temper the appreciation. You know, maybe instead of 10, 20%, we're going to see 5 to 10%. But I don't see a shutdown. I've been asked that basically every year since I started teaching Wake Up Money in 1981.
Yeah.
And only one time, and again, I teach forecasting. Only one time did I say, yes, I think there is a bubble. And it was interesting. It was at a time when the media didn't think there was one.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was supposed to be buying real estate in 2007. And we were telling our investors, go to the sidelines, because all you got to do is look at supply and demand. And if they're in balance or out of balance. Right now, we're out of balance the wrong way. We have too much demand, not enough supply.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, it made me start thinking about something I learned in Ninja years ago. And again, for those of you who haven't been through Ninja, or you may not remember this, I'm going to throw this in. I'm just going aside. This goes, and it goes to Michelle's question also, in that, you know, we constantly get people asking us, how's the market? And we don't really know why they're asking, right? They might be asking specifically for investment purposes, but, you know, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off what we're talking about here, but I want to help you guys out here because, again, your investors are going to ask this question. Anytime somebody asks you how the market is, it doesn't matter if it's a home buyer or an investor, your answer is always, why are you asking? It's always, why are you asking? One of the problems that we as agents have is we like to launch into how much we know about the market. And we start to say things like, oh my gosh, it's a crazy market and my buyers are getting beat out and I can't find any homes. Like, that does not inspire confidence. And as I was saying this, I was watching Jennifer Egbert shake her head up and down, like she gets the comment. So anyways, I know we have a bunch of agents on this call who are just in your first 1 to 2 years. Larry, tell me if I'm going the right direction. They always answer, why are you asking?
Yeah, or even more specifically, Lee, what part of the market are you interested in?
Yeah.
But why are you asking, or what part of the market are you interested in, and see what they say.
Yeah, very good. All right, we are coming down on our last 20 minutes here, Larry. We spend a lot of time in our group talking about the importance of agents being investor-friendly agents. And I've been working with that term now for the last 6 months. I haven't even asked you, like, when you hear that term investor-friendly agent, what does that mean to Larry?
Well, that tells me that it's somebody who understands investment property and can help me as a client build a portfolio of investment property, investor friendly. Yeah. And that means that they know the market. They know how to size up properties. They know what they would rent for. They know who the property managers are. They know how to finance them, which is a big one. They're investor friendly. Yeah.
Do you think I shouldn't even say in this market, it should be just in any market. You know, you've believed in Wake Up Money, and you've taught it for a long time because you want agents to be investor-friendly agents. Do you think that's an important part when we think like ninjas, or we try to think as go-givers to be able to bring that? Like, let's spend a little bit more time there, just because that is our space. What value Do you think that brings to the agents who are on this call to be thinking like investor-friendly agents? Yeah, it's kind of an open question.
Well, I think that what it does, number one, it does a lot for your client, but also for your business. It just opens up a whole nother avenue. Let's just take, for example, the give your kids a chance, which is the idea that take a look at your database. If you have 200 households in your database, how many children are in that database? Maybe there's 100 children. Well, that means that's 100 houses that need to be purchased for college educations. And your mission should be to help your clients pay for a college education. And that's an example of what it does for your clients and also what it does for your business. Just think about how that opens up the opportunities. One of the things that you hear quite a bit now is, well, how do you do this when there's, quote, no inventory?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we set a record it wasn't a record, but it was the highest number of sales in the United States for the last 15 years. So we sold about 700,000 more houses last year than we have at any time in the last 15 years.
Yep.
So there had to be inventory someplace in order to sell houses. But let me offer a strategy. And our market is very hot. Multiple offers. Homes are selling in a matter of hours, not days. But even in our market, and I would say in many markets, there are still those houses that get left behind. I did an analysis in our MLS recently, and yes, about 50% of the homes that sell are selling at time on market from list date to offer date is 2-3 days. But there's about 50% that are 40 days or more. And I have some investors that what they do is they track the properties that get passed over in that first week or two. And they're interested in the properties that have gone 2 weeks, 30 days without an offer. And that's what they're buying properties. And some of those sellers are a bit surprised because they ask their realtor, well, how many offers do you think we'll get? And we'll do this launch, and we'll launch on this day. We'll look at offers on that. A week later, well, they launched and they didn't get any offers for a variety of reasons. Usually, it's because they're a little bit greedy in the market or their pricing or whatever. But take a look at and believe it or not, there's actually expired listings in our market.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think so, but there's opportunities there. If you look, you have to look a little bit harder for them.
Yeah, one of the things I've been talking about and trying to coach people on, especially as coaching agents on, Larry, is we've seen these tremendous increase in values in properties, really almost in every market across the country. There is no reason why real estate agents should not be doing real estate reviews for their clients' investor properties, just like their own owner-occupied properties. Because one of the things these investors are going to realize right now is they may have too much equity. Like that property might not be giving them the return, and it's time to go buy another property, right? But the real estate reviews that are trained and talked about in Ninja Selling, it is a great time to be doing real estate reviews on investor properties because the values are high, the equities are high, and the quick example here, and this is something we'll talk about at a later time in our group, but if your investor went and bought a property 6 or 7 years ago, and let's say they were getting an 8% return on their $30,000 down payment, well, guess what? Today they might be getting a couple $100 more rent, but they might have $200,000 worth of equity in that property now. Like their return may be much lower, and that may be the perfect listing waiting for you. That'll help the market, it'll help their buyers, it'll help your investor. And the good news is on that investor, you probably get to go and sell them you get to list and sell their property and help them buy another one. Nothing wrong with that.
Lee, what you had stimulated was a thought, two thoughts actually. First of all, if you have a goal to buy or own 10 properties, all you really need to do is get enough money together to buy 2 or 3, and those 2 or 3 will buy the rest. You'll learn to refinance. I look back on all my wife and I, our portfolio of properties all came down to those first 2 that we bought. And they went up, we refinanced, took the money, the rents went up, we refinanced, bought 4 more, refinanced those, bought 4, just kept going. And so, and then the other thing is, I think investors are a great source of listings right now. And I made that comment at a sales meeting, and somebody stood up and called me out on it. They said, well, why would anybody want to sell their property? I mean, it's the best investment that they have. They can't replace it. If they sell it, they're never going to be able to, or not never, but they're going to have a hard time buying a replacement property. I said, okay, why don't we do this? Let me survey our investors and ask them, if you could, this comes into the real estate review.
Yeah.
So you're reviewing their portfolio and say, gee, you've got $2 million of equity. What would you like to do with that? If you could wave a magic wand and do anything with that $2 million, what would you do? And I actually did a video on this I got 12 answers. And only one of them was, I'm good to go. I like what I have. I don't want to buy any more. I don't want to sell any. I'm good to go. The other 11 involved doing something. So the next most common answer was, I want to refinance and buy more.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, this comes out of a real estate review. Okay. You ask that question. You have a $2 million of equity. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you like to do with that money? I've had people say, I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit of money off the table, sell a couple of those because I can use that money to pay for my kids' college, or I can pay off some student debt. Or I had one guy who he had been offered, he's an attorney, he had been offered a partnership in the firm, and he wanted to do that. So he sold one of his properties and used that money to buy into his company.
Yeah.
What was really interesting, we had one older couple. I looked at they had 10 houses. I looked at, they could sell those 10 houses and carry the financing and actually have more cash flow each month than by owning the houses. They were better off being a lender. Are you following me?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah, they did 3 houses last year. They want to do 2 or 3 a year until they're totally a lender.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, and it all comes out of the real estate review for those investors.
Yeah. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm going to sidetrack this just for 1 minute. For everyone on this call or anybody who's going to tune in later, there are 4 things that we do in Ninja Selling, and you should really focus on them weekly. And they're all designed to build know, like, and trust in your business, in your life, in your relationships. One of those is your real estate review. And the real estate review is one of those pieces that is all about building trust. The moment your clients know that you're looking out for them, you're looking out for their future, you're looking out for their kids, that is where trust really comes in. I know I wish my accountant would do accounting reviews with me, and I wish my attorney would do like trust reviews with me. On the real estate side of things, it's not very difficult for you to do real estate reviews with your client. And especially on the investor side, if you can help them start to see visions of what I could do if I had this $200,000, or what I could do, how many more houses I could buy, it's huge. And what I always like to talk about is, look, when you're doing real estate reviews, all you're really doing is getting to know your market better, which is what you should be doing anyways in your daily real estate life. But in the investor front right now, there are so many listings to be had and so many opportunities to serve. It's just something to think about. So anyways, back to where we are. Jennifer asked a good question, Larry. And I'm interested in your opinion on this. I know it's going to be an opinion and it's every market. She said, how do you know when to sell something? Like, she is always like sat there and said, I'm going to hold my property and hold. What is your opinion?
Well, first of all, hey, Jennifer, good to see you. Nice to have a Coloradoan on the call. So I know
So
Jennifer
good to
well.
I love that you're doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm one of your big fans. So I think you know that.
Wow, that
I think that's a great question. Generally, what I've observed is it depends on your age. So when you're younger, when I say younger, pre-retirement, it doesn't make any sense to sell the properties unless you have some sort of life event, such as you have the opportunity to maybe go into business for yourself and you want to raise money to build a business or to do something. But if it's strictly for investment, I think you want to hold on to your properties, get them free and clear if you can. As you get older, I think there are some options to think about. I recall one couple, they were in their 60s, and they owned 10 houses, and they all had loans on them. And I sat down and showed them, and they managed them themselves. And at their age, they wanted to travel. They said it's really kind of a pain to try to manage these, and they didn't want to do a property manager. I showed them how they could sell 5 of the properties, and even after taxes, capital gains taxes, pay off the mortgages on the other 5. They actually had more cash flow owning 5 houses free and clear than owning 10 houses that were leveraged. So that would be an example. The other example that I mentioned earlier, becoming a lender, basically what we call mailbox money. As you get older, mostly what you want is you want simplicity and you want cash flow. And I was standing in the teller line at the bank, and this gentleman next to me, he looks over, he says, "Hey, Larry, you probably don't remember me, but I was at your Wake Up Money class." He said, I'm doing what you suggested on selling properties and carrying the financing. And I did 2 last year, and it works out great. He calls it mailbox money. I don't have any management problems. I just, get the money. And check with your accountant, because you can sell, if you carry the financing back on the real estate, you don't pay capital gains tax on the amount that you carry back. So for example, if you have a $500,000 house and you're going to sell it, and let's say say it's free and clear, you sell it for, give me $100,000 down, I'll carry the financing, the $400,000. You pay capital gain tax on the $100,000, but you don't pay capital gain tax on the $400,000. You only pay it on the principal that you receive each year. So it's an excellent way for tax planning, simplicity. Generally, my experience is, unless you have some sort of life event where you need to raise money, or you want to start a business or buy into the firm, or maybe change and go from residential to commercial, it doesn't make any sense to sell your real estate. But as you get older, there are options that you'll want to pursue.
Thanks, Larry. We're coming down to the end here, and I'm going to open it up for any questions. Folks, one of the things that I made on my list that I wanted to at least get across today, one of the most important parts of Wake Up Money for me, when I brought it to my community, when I brought it to my marketplace, was that I expanded my flow pretty dramatically. In Ninja, we talk a lot about flow, and many times the amount of business you have is going to be determined by that flow rate. Well, when I started teaching these classes and I put the message out, I didn't just put the message out to to my clients. I put it out to the accountants and the attorneys in my marketplace. And all of a sudden, overnight, I became the investor real estate agent in the community. Very, very, very cool, because these people are talking with people with money or tax issues or houses and so on a regular basis. So one of the benefits of being an investor-friendly agent, adopting some of these systems like Ninja and Wake Up Money, and then teaching those in your communities. Look, it's as much as you want to come out of those opportunities with a sale here and a sale there, it's about building the know, like, and trust, and understanding how that affects your flow of your business. Imagine if you suddenly had 12 new accountants and 8 new attorneys in your marketplace who were big fans of yours, because you know how to work with their clients who might have real estate issues. So that was one of these ending points for me, that was a huge plus, because while I came out of my business and I was helping more people with investments, what really happened was my flow grew because of that trust that got built up, because it wasn't just about selling a house. It was about caring for people and looking out for their futures and their needs. So all that being said, take that to heart as we come out of this. We are at 11. Larry, any comments on that?
No, no, you got it, Lee. That's exactly what happens. And you build a bigger network, and you build a reputation for being the go-to investment realtor in the market, and those relationships with the CPAs and the attorneys. Yeah, fantastic. Excellent.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes here for any final questions. And then Larry, I'm going to let you finish this up at the end. I already warned Emily, who's on the call with us. And Larry, I told you before we jumped on the call about this new hotshot agent who came to the business from the NCAA rowing world. So we're lucky to have Emily Ford with us. And she already told me she has at least a question or two that she's going to pose. So I'm going to move it over to her first. I'm going to unmute you, Emily. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Larry, and it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Emily.
Yeah. So my question is, well, my first question, I guess, is do you manage any of your properties as short-term rentals, and how do you counsel folks on the benefits of short-term versus long-term rentals?
You know, the short-term rental is a phenomenon, a fairly recent phenomenon, the last 5 years or so. And I think it really, you've got to really know that market. You got to know what the rules are in your community as far as, registration, or if it's even allowed in certain neighborhoods. But I think there's a real opportunity there. I know that a lot of the investors that I know that own short-term rentals, their return on investment is so much higher. The cash flow, they're actually able to support these higher values now that you have to pay for properties, and actually can cash flow. So I think that's a whole, almost a niche within itself to understand that. And again, it depends on the community that you're in and so on. But yeah, I think that's an opportunity.
Awesome. I was also curious just how long it took you to get up to 10 properties.
Let's see, that would be a good question. I bought my first property in 1978. And by 1980, I had the 6. By 1981, I had the 10. So 3 years.
Oh,
and I did
awesome.
it at a time when I can remember 4 of the properties, they were lakefront townhomes that the builder was holding for himself. He wasn't going to sell, though he was doing the development, but those 4 on the lake he was going to hold, but he got in trouble in that recession, and he said he would sell them, and interest rate was 17.5%. He bought the rate down to 13% if I would buy them. And so I paid 13% interest to buy those. That was in 1981. That was the last 4 that I bought. And a lot of people thought I was crazy, but those were one of a kind. I mean, you can't buy lakefront property hardly anywhere. And if you have a chance, you do whatever it takes. And what I did on those properties, interestingly, I knew that those interest rates wouldn't stay that high, that they would go down. So every time they would drop 2 points, I would refinance, but I would keep my payment the same instead of lowering my payment. And I would simply advance the amortization. So they went from 13% to 11. I refinanced, 11 to 9, refinanced. Went down to, I think, about 7.5 and refinanced. And I owned those free and clear in about 11 years.
That's awesome.
Emily is in there trying to figure out how she can refinance from 3.5 down to 1.5.
Yeah. And one of the reason I picked 10 was, at the time, if you own 10 houses free and clear, that was $100,000 a year net income. And I wanted to have $100,000 a year from investments. When you start into real estate, I think your first year, it's survival. How can I survive? And put food on the table, take care of my family. Once you've done that, the next level is, okay, how can I thrive? I've proven that I can do this. Now I want to be really good at what I do, and I want to I want to have disposable income. And then the next level for me was, I want financial freedom. And what is the definition of that for me? Well, back in the day, that was 100,000 a year. Today it would be higher, but that 100,000. Okay, how do I get there? Well, I need to get 10 houses, and then I need to get them free and clear. And I did that, and got the 10 houses in 3 years, got them all free and clear in about another 10, I think it was. So about 13 years from start to finish. Then those houses, I was not ready to quit. I'm still selling real estate. Those houses now are cranking 100. Then it was up to about $120,000 a year. Now what do? Well, I just kept buying houses. They were generating enough income that I could buy a townhouse every year or every 2 years. I just kept going, but it's a nice position to be in, to have the money to travel, to do whatever you want, to support the causes that are important to you. To wake up in the morning and say, okay, what do I want to do this today? I don't have to go do what I'm doing. I ended up doing what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing, but it's nice to have that flexibility. And then I think at the top, this is kind of Maslow's hierarchy, is, where you're into legacy. What is my legacy? What can I do to make a difference in the world and make it better for people? So anyway, that was my path.
I appreciate that. We're going to go to one more point of view here from the chat before we sign off. Jennifer commented a couple times here that short-term rentals are killing it, and it sounds like you're a big fan of those, Jennifer. While that isn't specifically what we're here to talk about today, let's add a little bit of your feedback of that, because it is a question that keeps coming up in our conversation in the groups that we have offline. When you say, luxury short-term rentals are killing it, what's happening in your market with those?
I mean, it's insane what's happening in Boulder anyway. So, we're just seeing this month. So I could digress. So short-term luxury rentals started really taking off, I want to say in 2018 or 19 here. And that was about the same time that our restrictions got clamped down on as well. So you have to be, and I agree with you. You have to know the rules. You cannot advise your clients or yourselves without knowing the rules, because they're pretty restricted. And I will admit that I may have gotten in trouble with the city of Boulder and had a pretty hefty fine. And so stopped my short-term rental. But right now, what we're seeing, if you even go on Airbnb and look at what people will pay per night, it's out of control. I mean, I have a client, I have a listing that I had last year. You can look it up. It's 1465 Sunset Boulevard. It sold for $5 million. I've represented both sides, and they have turned that into a short-term rental, and they will get something like $1,500 a night on just normal weeks, so at the end of the day, they're making no less than $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing that a lot. And, it works in resorts too, right? Like, we're seeing some restrictions in Breckenridge now, which I think is really weird that they would restrict short-term rentals in a ski town, but I don't know, maybe you guys have some insight about that, because that's how ski towns thrive. And then I have clients who during COVID, who are regular travelers, right? They completely got itchy feet. I connected them to, I'm part of a luxury real estate mastermind group, and I connected them to my agent down in Punta Mita. They bought a house at the Four Seasons in Punta Mita for $4.5 million. On the low end, they get $5,000 a night. And on the high season nights, they get $15,300 a night on their villa. And the Four Seasons takes care of everything. They do take a considerable chunk of it for the management, but they have somebody at the house every day who will cook and clean and, do everything that the guests want.
Yeah.
And their just shocked. And then in the meantime, since they closed, it's appreciated $2.5 million because all the wealthy Mexican families aren't going to Europe so much right now or anymore. They will eventually. So they all went to Punta Mita, which is gorgeous. And like during the holidays, I mean, they made over $100,000.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to pull you up here at the end,
Yeah.
Jennifer, and just to share with everybody, the questions that we ask of our clients and how we listen matters. There are opportunities in every marketplace. So when people ask about short-term rentals, look, short-term rentals are important and doing well in every marketplace. You just have to understand them. And when you're starting to talk to people about investment opportunities or how they want to use their monies, make sure you know those exist. You know,
I think it's really important to understand how our clients are, our clients are putting their money right now.
Sure.
Because I have had a lot of high-end clients pull a lot of money out of the stock market in order to diversify. I mean, my market is mostly tech, right? And so a lot of people in 2020 and 21 made a lot of extra money. And so we've got a guy up the street who has bought almost all of his neighbors' houses. So just really understanding that your clients, how they're spending their money, where are they putting their money, what did they miss out on while they're gone? And I go back to like all of those Ford questions that we use, and I can Ford all day long.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Larry, before we sign off here, folks, before we got on the call, Larry shared a book with me, and I'm going to have him share it with you. Before he does that, though, just a couple of reminders. Larry's the author of Ninja Selling. You can find that at ninjaselling.com. You can find it on Amazon or any of your favorite bookstores. It's worth a read. If you haven't yet, do look into getting involved in a Ninja installation. They happen across the country. Many times they're hosted by real estate offices out there, but those offices will open them to other agents. And honestly, those offices open them to other agents because the offices understand the benefits of having ninjas in their marketplace. Like the more ninjas, the better. So there's also a lot of groups surrounding Ninja that you get involved with. If you go through the Ninja installation, you're also going to get a copy of all of Larry's favorite books and others. And I was hoping Larry could end today with a book that he shared with me before he started, because it kind of encapsulates Ninja and the Wake Up Money concept. So Larry, thanks for being here with us today. What was share a little bit about the book that you brought up just as we were talking.
You bet. Well, Lee, thank you so much for putting this whole group together and for inviting me on. You're making a difference in the world, and I appreciate you so much. As you know, I'm one of your biggest fans. So I thought a couple of things on quotes that might help you. Warren Buffett, his investment strategy is, he says, never invest in something that you don't understand. Well, most people understand houses. So real estate and houses is a great investment. Dr. Thomas Stanley, who wrote the book, The Millionaire Next Door, devoted his whole career to studying wealthy people. And his quote is, more wealth has been created through real estate than through any other vehicle. So I would encourage you again to consider real estate investment. This book, and I don't know if I hold it back, there we go.
Yeah, we've got it.
Is the I just read this book. I'm blown away by it. The Psychology of Money. It's not about, accounting or how, investments or investment strategy. It's about your mindset as it relates to money. And I think it's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it. Interestingly, he points out in the book the difference between money and wealth. And, money or being rich is your income. Okay, so if you have a certain income, then you're rich, but that doesn't mean you're wealthy. Wealth is your net worth, your investments. And his definition of wealth, interestingly, is being wealthy is the ability to wake up in the morning with enough money and health and friends to do whatever you want that day. Well, we call that wake up money. So anyway, I'd highly recommend it. I think you'll enjoy this book. So With that, again, Lee, thank you for putting this group together, and thank you for inviting me to participate.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for inspiring us today. Thanks everybody for joining in. And I've put in the chat some of the links to what we were doing today. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks,
Steve.
everybody.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Larry. So good to see you.